And one. Hello, welcome to the Unfiltered Show. We are super, super excited. You're in for an awesome treat. We have a very lovely guest today, the awesome Leila Colgan. And I hope I even said the last name correctly because I call her Lila all the time. But no, she's delightful, and I'm super excited to hear from her today. Lila is a well-established sales strategist, been a high-influence super trainer in the corporate environment for most of her career, and has broken records on many levels. And we're super excited for her today to share some of that thought process with us. And we're going to talk a little bit about some surprises that she's got coming up here in the next couple of weeks as well. We'll dive deeper into that. But she's also a coach, and she's also part of the Maxwell Leadership Group, and she's also a disc coach. And we're going to talk about what all of that means in a little bit. You know, Lila is inspired by helping. Oops.
Yep, it's pausing.
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, Lila's inspired by helping female women sales professionals and entrepreneurs. She wants to share her journey, her examples, the lessons she's learned,
You're
the
frozen
price
again.
she's paid. I don't know why I'm getting
Uh-oh.
am I cutting in and out? I apologize. I'm not on Wi-Fi. I'm on a hard connect, so I apologize.
You're frozen.
Am I back on? Let me know when I'm
Uh-oh.
back on. I think I'm good. Lila, can you hear me?
You're back, but you're a little fuzzy. Hopefully we don't lose you again. You were frozen for quite a while.
My heart. No, anyway, Lila, you have so much experience, and you're generous with your information today, and you want to share your journey and your lessons of success, and what's empowered you to excel in a competitive field. So let me first start by saying I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm so excited to be around you, to have learned from you. Watching you has been an inspiration. I've seen the work you've done. I've been personally affected by your generous gifts, how gracious you've been to the people that I've cared about, and your kindness. So, having been a first-hand recipient of all that you walk and talk, um, super excited to have you on the show today. So, welcome to the Unfiltered Show.
Oops, you're frozen.
Yeah, I apologize for the bad connection. We'll make sure we run some edits on this. But
Yeah, it's definitely froze. It's definitely freezing up.
wow. All right. Well, we can hear you. So tell us a little bit about you, Lila. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm losing internet again and again and again.
Oh,
1 second, I apologize.
mhm.
Am I back on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry about that. The beauty of technology, it only works when it works. So, Lila, tell us a little bit about the background of being a sales strategist, um, being in the Maxwell Leadership Group, and then also being a disc coach. What does that mean to the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been in sales and marketing my entire career. I've had a really good run at sales. I've also been known sometimes as like the territory flipper or I have been known as someone who can just literally change things. And I didn't really think so much about that myself too much. It was more of leadership that kind of had to tell me that I had something unique in that area. And so I obviously went on to pursue learning from John Maxwell, who I feel is one of the best, right? For me, it was like, if you can help inspire change in people, that's part of the whole mission at Maxwell Leadership, as well as, the disc profile just basically helps you determine how you can interact with people from different perspectives, because we're all born with innate qualities of how we communicate and how we relate to people. And if you can learn your style and then learn how to relate to other people, it just helps you become a better communicator, a better, partner in life, a better friend, or whatever. If you can learn how to, communicate with different styles. And so it's something that's very typically done in the corporate environment. They use the disc profile quite a bit. Um, but it's something that I would encourage anybody to really just learn more about themselves and learn how you can relate to other people in your lives better, just by understanding your own style.
Lila, is the DISC program the equivalent of the love language in personal relationships? Understanding each other's buttons and how to subscribe to that?
Yeah, I guess so. There's so many different tests that are out there, right? That people go through to learn their different communication styles. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could do a very farewell kind of comparison to that. It's just interacting from your communication style. I mean, DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. So those are different fields of how you relate to people. And, sometimes if you're struggling in situations, you just learn your style. And then it basically teaches you how to communicate with somebody that is different from you, kind of the words to say, how to interact with people. So it's a very valuable tool.
All right. So being a DISC expert and being trained and well versed in that space, how how have you been able to switch it on or switch it off in personal interactions? Just having normal relationships with people not associated in business. We'll talk about business here in a second, but on the personal level, have you met people? Um, do you discern the people that you meet? Do you discify just naturally?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's pretty easy to pick out certain personalities. I mean, my undergrad was in psychology too, so I think that kind of helps a little bit. But I think once you kind of learn how somebody talks or somebody's style, you know that they're a certain personality. And a lot of times, if you're like me, I'm somebody who's very extroverted, very outgoing, very bubbly, like could easily talk to somebody. But if you're talking to somebody who's not like that, you just need to learn how to tone it back. Especially for me, like I deal with physicians all the time, and a lot of times they're not the happy go lucky, excited person. They're very serious and they
Right.
want, certain things done a certain way. And when you understand that, even in your speech, even when you're presenting data to them or when you're having communication to them, you know that there's a certain way that they like it presented to them. And so you course correct yourself to align to have that conversation with somebody. And a lot of times it has a lot to do with being very aware of people's body language too. I think a lot of people, that's a part of the problem. I notice in sales sometimes is that people have an agenda that they come with, that they want to sell something. And so they're prepared to just kind of tell their story without a lot of times picking up on clues. And body language can be a really big one too, to pick up on somebody.
For sure.
And if you're not paying attention to that, you can kind of overstep your bounds sometimes.
Are you able to switch it on and off, or is it just an always and on switch?
No, I sometimes almost to a fault. Sometimes, like even they say if you can mirror somebody how they're doing something, sometimes I do it so much that I almost start talking like the person. So I have to be careful because I don't want anybody to think that I'm imitating them. it's just a natural thing for me to kind of mirror. If they're sitting back, I sit back. If they shake hands, I shake hands, So it's just a style. And sometimes I just go into automatic mode. And then sometimes my voice even changes, which is something I need to be careful of as well.
So it's kind of common though, right? Adaptability to some extent. I mean, I'm a foreigner. I've been out here for 35 years, but I was born in a different country. We had different accents, and when we came here, we had to adapt, or we would pretty much be, can't communicate as well. And just not to poke fun of this, I can't believe I have such a bad connection. Um, in recent times, just to not to go off on a tangent, but during the recent elections, one of the candidates um, actually got called out on sounding different at each different audience group that she was speaking with, and for whatever that is, I don't know if it's subconscious or conscious. It happens, and I've seen that as I've traveled. I think I adapt, and in environments here, I seen that as well. And is that a natural thing, or is that a subconscious thing? What's more of a reflexive habit? What's more of a control habit?
Well, I think it depends, right? I think sometimes people do things to try to impress the audience that they're with, and I think that's almost forced, right? Like I think I know what who you're talking about, and I felt that that was more forced or trying to be somebody that they're really not,
Yeah.
in front of somebody versus you being respectful and understanding of who you're dealing with and adjusting your tone and your style, your body language, whatever is making the other person feel comfortable, right? But so it's not pretending to be somebody that you're not, but it's being more sensitive to their character and style.
I'll tell you a funny story. So the company Unfiltered, when we founded, my partners in Louisiana, and most of our initial staff and teams were from Louisiana. So you get a guy with my accent going into Louisiana and working with everybody. That was fun to watch. That was fun to watch. I don't know if I ever broke through with the Southern accent, but it was beautiful to listen to. I often tell them that they should just leave me a voicemail that I could play before I go to bed, just because it kind of puts you in a very relaxed state of mind. But hey, I want to ask you about some of the things that you've experienced. Now, I know as I met you, I obviously met somebody successful and very good at her craft, and has left a great impression in her industry. And I've watched you work, and I've seen what you've been able to pull off, just by picking up the phone and making two phone calls. I mean, that kind of power doesn't come without a price. So what I'm pausing only because I'm being told I'm not connecting. Um, tell us tell us a little bit about some of that learning curve, right? When things weren't as natural, when things maybe weren't as easy, um, when maybe you didn't have some of the authority that you have today. Walk us through some of those moments.
Yeah, maybe you could repeat that question because you froze a little bit there, so I missed part of it. So if you could repeat that, that'd be great.
For sure, for sure. So I was talking about how, as I got introduced to you and we started to meet each other and get to know each other, I'm meeting somebody who's successful and very put together and very influential, and I know you have left you a great impression in your field, and you're so well respected today. And I've seen you exercise those powers, right? And used your powers for good, which is awesome. But I know it wasn't always like this. Nothing was really handed to you. So I wanted you to share a little bit about the learning curve and some of the some of the slips, and some of the price that maybe had to be paid to have the authority that you have today.
Yeah, I mean, if I think of back in my early career, I was pretty insecure. It wasn't something that was easy for me as far as the confidence. I mean, the confidence came as I got more familiar with what I was doing and what I was selling. And I remember one of the first times, very early on in my career, and I had called on a physician, and he said, "Oh, come back, I really want to see you." And I really thought he really did want to see me. And he came back, and he just like was extremely like rude, and said something. And I was so young in my career, I didn't know what to do, and I actually left the office crying. And I'm not somebody that cries that often. And I left, and I went and I visited another one of my physicians who I really trusted, that was like down the hall. And he's like, "Oh, he does that to everybody." So, what it had done for me is it turned me from allowing somebody like that to hurt my feelings to basically, it was basically a lesson that I had learned, that I was like not going to let somebody like that, you know, dull my shine by any means. With And just, part of it is, I think in psychology, right? They said if somebody is a difficult person to deal with, which in this case it was, right? There's something underlying that individual. It's either fear, hurt, or frustration. And if you can figure out which three of those it is and try to resolve the issue with one of those, with those, in mind, a lot of times you can get over that. So, like, let's say if somebody's like really angry and frustrated, instead of me trying to like oversell or try to do something, I would literally say, "Gosh, it sounds like you're really frustrated about a situation. Would that be accurate?" Right? So it's mainly like really trying to get to their heart in a way that some people would just normally maybe blow somebody off like that if they're being rude. But when you hit them kind of head on, and they're kind of going, "Oh, well, I guess she's picking up something I'm throwing down," right?
Right. All
Um,
right. So we're the Unfiltered show. So I'm gonna give you a hypothetical that I'm only making this up, so I'm only guessing.
yeah.
But tell me if I'm spot on, right? So you mentioned earlier that you work primarily with doctors, um, and I'm just gonna go with a stereotype. They're known to be arrogant. They're known to be somewhat obnoxious, maybe a little insensitive. Um, Always believing they're the smartest people in the room, right? So you're walking in, and I'm just going to call it what it is. You're stunningly gorgeous, petite, 5 feet four, maybe with heels. Cute blonde, and you're walking in and into this often male-dominated space, especially with private clinics and stuff like that. So tell me how that dynamic unfolds, where you can slay the giant.
Well, I mean, to me, the difference between me, I think, is I've always tried to get to somebody's heart, no matter who it is, right? I mean, if I have an agenda, I have to go in, and you're supposed to sell something, and I get that, right? But I want to find out more about who this person is that I'm talking to. And to me, it's more like, how do you like to communicate with people? What is your style? Try to find out more about them. Like, how do you like to be communicated with? Do you like in person? Do you like virtual? Do you like emails? Do you like text message? Like, how is it the best way for me to communicate with you? And then they'll tell you, right? So, and then some people are just if, as long as you know your technical information, and you know where you need to get to, I try to always limit myself to three top priorities that I'm going to ask somebody, and then be done with it, right? I'm not there to like, babble away and waste somebody's time. I'm trying to get to the heart of the matter, and more, it's like trying to find out what their issue is. So if I can resolve it, then we're doing great.
How do you get past the initial arrogance and have them start taking you seriously right off the bat?
I don't always feel like, I mean, there are people that are arrogant for sure, but I think in
They
most,
are. They're doctors. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
but for the
No, no.
most, for the most case, I think when you really try to find out from them what it is that they need, what is it underlying for them that is purposeful, right? Because you don't want to waste their time. I think if they realize that you're not there to waste their time, because that's the thing that bothers them, right? Like, oh, here's another person that's going to take up another 5 or 10 minutes of my time when I need to be seeing my patient. So what do you want? Right. So to me,
Right.
it's like I start off the conversation by saying, hey, I know you're really busy, but I only have 2 or 3 things, whatever I have on a little bullet point, whatever that I want to talk to you. Is now a good time, or is it better for me to come back another time? And with that, I like there's been times when they've said, you've got 5 minutes, right? And then I tell them what I want to say. And then all of a sudden that 5 minutes has turned into 45 minutes, or it's
Right.
turned, come in my office and have a conversation with me, right? Because they know you're smart, you're not wasting their time, you're asking for permission. And then that opens doors.
That's awesome. That and I'm going to ask you this. So, in our pre-interview, preparing for the show, you talked about having gone through a lot of adversity, and some of the people that know you well have even likened it to be where it was worthy of maybe even creating a movie around some of the experiences you've had. Um, you able to share any of that with us on this call and with this audience and let them know some of what that means? What kind of adversity are we talking about, and where's the movie worthiness?
Well, I don't know how far I want to get into that, but yeah, I mean, I was a single mom at the my age of my kids 2 and 3. I
Yeah,
was in let's say, a very tumultuous, abusive relationship that I needed to exit. And it was very frightening as a mother of a 2 and a 3-year-old that
that's
like
tough.
needed to kind of figure it all out. Right. And there was like several series of things that had happened in during that time that kind of escalated. For example, I was in court for 16 years.
Yeah,
And so, it wears on you financially, emotionally, um, but you still had to perform, right? You still had to be in your job and do all of that and
raise
honestly,
kids.
raise kids. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kids, make sure they had a roof over their house.
yeah.
Yep. So, yeah.
That's unfortunate that you had to go through that, right? And but you've also seen in your life, um, it happens a lot more often than we'd like to admit. Just in the last couple of weeks, we put this show on every Tuesday, and the guest that we had a couple of weeks ago, she had talked about going through a lengthy battle in custody issues and somewhat being in an abusive relationship. You can tune in to listen to those details. And last week we had the same situation as well. Um, one of the motivators on putting this platform together. I worked in an environment where I was working very intimately with families for most of my adult life, and what I've realized is the single mom position is way, way, way more often than the single dad position. And I'm not suggesting that it's 100%, but if I had to take a guess over my 25 years of dealing with families, um, I would say it's a 95 to 5% ratio. And and it just makes me want to love the women so much more, right? Because the battles of being mom and being a breadwinner and keeping the house and the roof over their heads, and at the same time playing bad cop, right? Making sure they brushed their teeth, did their homework, went to bed, and and trying to be the sports mom, the art mom, the dance mom, the academic mom, the fun mom, the disciplinarian mom, the example mom, while still doing all of those things professionally as well. Um, I've watched it happen my entire life, and I would tell you in a New York minute, I could never do it. I'm a dude. I don't have that talent. I'm not, I'm wired a little bit more selfish, I guess. I don't know what it is, but so much respect, right? So much respect. And what what through some of those experiences, and we don't have to go into the details of it, but what may have given you that little bit extra drive, that extra push? What was hardest in those moments? If you had to rank the three hardest hurdles to get to where you are today during those moments of adversity, what would they be?
Well, I mean, the biggest fear you have, right, is that you never want to lose your job, right? Like that's a super big thing that you're
Yeah.
always concerned about. And
I'm going
so
to talk to you about that here in a second because you're entrepreneurial as well. I want to talk to you about the difference.
yeah, so I mean, so you get really worried about that, right? And then of course when you're in court, it's just interesting because it's you walk out, you first of all, you're never case number 1, and you sit there and you listen to everybody's story. And if you can imagine that 16 years times, I don't know, 5 times, 6 times a year you have to do that, and
Yeah.
you walk out, it's like you all you can think about is like, all I got to do is take care of my kids, right? Like, I mean, you
Yeah.
just got you have to focus. And there are many times, like at nighttime, especially at 2 and 3, right, where you're like, oh, I need some milk, and I'm like, oh, I can't get it because they're
Right.
in bed, right, and I can't
Right.
run to the store. So and
And
I
there
and
weren't no Instacart back in the day.
exactly, no. And I mean, I did. I had colleagues that literally asked me, they're like, "I don't know how you do it, Lila, because
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a wife, I got kids, and I don't know how you did it." So, but you don't think about those things, right? You just do them. Um,
Yeah.
and you you work harder to make sure that you have the things that you have, because you always think like you don't ever want to lose your job, right? That's like the most important thing to me. So,
So I'm glad you said it that way again, and I'm glad you ended it with that because um, we had a chance to get to know each other a little bit and spend some time together. And what struck me is not only are you extremely well positioned and proficient in your current professional capacity, but you also have a very strong entrepreneurial spirit and mindset and a willingness to hustle. Um, how do you measure the? I asked this question, and it's a pointed question. Um, I've often heard that you can't get to second base if your foot is still on first, but obviously the people who came up with those phrases didn't have to raise two kids with a whole lot of unknown circling their lives. So talk me through some of that evolution if you can, please.
yeah, I mean, as far as like into the entrepreneurial space, or is
Yeah.
that what? Yeah,
Yeah.
it just kind of evolved. It was just kind of something that always interests me. It really is at the heart of my passion. And I think because when I approach anything that I do, I'm always known as the out of the box thinker.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to think how I can get something done rather than I can't get something done. There's people that just say I can't, or they won't, or there's no access, or there's whatever. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, how can I? Who can I call? Right. So I've always been considered a connector, and I love connecting with people. I love learning what other people do. And I just get, I don't know, I just get inspired by doing things the entrepreneurial way too. And it's just an out of the box mindset, I think, that I have, that I just love. And I just love to explore different ideas, and talking to people about what they do. And then I just catch the bug, right? The entrepreneurial bug as well.
So I'm going to ask you this. So I ask every guest in the show, regardless of the levels of success we're experiencing today, or what we've learned, what we've overcome. Um, I know that my litany of list of things that I wish I had done different is long. So if I gave you a magic wand, and I don't want to go back 20 years, but I want to go back maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. If I gave you a magic wand and said, Lila, you have the chance to wiggle this wand and change, alter um, anything in the last 3 to 5 years, um, both professionally, personally, socially, what would some of those things be, if any?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think everything I've done at my full capacity, to be honest with you. But I think you know, some of the entrepreneurial companies or the things that I had worked with that ended up failing, not because of anything, we did or the team did as a whole. I think it would have been great. Like I had plenty of opportunity to be part of startups, and had teams. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, that those didn't, come to be. But I think honestly, if one of those could have popped or I could have been involved in something like that, I would have loved that opportunity to, really see it to its success, and mainly the people that I hired, right, as well, to be successful.
Yeah. Lila, have you ever experienced monumental, catastrophic, or significant setbacks or loss, or has it always been a fairly progressive ride where you just gotten better and things opened up?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've worked with 3 startups that unfortunately failed. And that was pretty harmful, right? Because I hired great people. I love the people that I worked with. And unfortunately, when companies close their doors or they run out of money or there's something that's not done at the top of the leadership and it
Yeah.
causes it to fail, you know, I mean, I feel like there's always something that you learn from that and that you take from that, so that you don't, so that doesn't get recreated, hopefully, in the future. Right. So, but there's no givens in life, right? You just have to kind of go through things and find out what happens along the way. And they're all lessons learned. I always learn something from every situation and, take it with me for the future.
Ever have any issues with running into? I think I'm freezing up again.
You are,
Ah,
yeah.
sorry. Ever run into situations with glass ceilings or machismo circles, good old boy clubs that just wouldn't openly invite or embrace a hottie into the organization of the group?
Yeah,
Hottie being you?
I think it's true. Like I think every company, I think, look, a lot of it is the good old boys club in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
Fortunately for me, I mean, I have a lot of wonderful men relationships that have been friendships for like a long, long time. And so
yeah,
for me it was, a lot of reasons. That's kind of actually why I went back and I got my MBA, right? Because I'm like, I want to be kind of looked at as being equal or par to somebody. And so I
yeah,
thought, even though everybody kept telling me, you don't need your MBA, Lila, we're going to promote you, like, for
yeah.
sure, don't worry about it. But I felt like it would only help me, it would only be beneficial for me. And then it was just being focused on delivering results, earning the respect, and just doing my job. And a lot of times, you know I was very well accepted, you know um as a whole.
Is the price for entry for women a little higher?
Oh, I believe so. I think women
Yeah,
always feel like we have to prove ourselves all the time, and I think, that's part of the confidence issue, right? I think a lot of women are afraid to say anything, or they feel challenged, like they got to keep
yeah.
quiet. They don't want to say anything. But a lot of times, I think, for me, sometimes I'm the squeaky wheel, but I feel like what I'm saying is from my heart, and I want to see change in a good way, not in a not coming from it from a negative perspective, but
Yeah.
looking at it like if we could try something like this, I think it would be very positive. Um, and
What
trying to make
about what about measuring performance? The price of entry is higher. What about staying on the field? Do women always have to perform at a higher level? Are they always being measured or scrutinized or noticed or analyzed more than their male counterparts?
I think it depends on the situation, right? I think for the most part, I feel like things are evening out a little bit more for females too. I don't think that there's like, I mean, look, any company could have people that treat women differently than they do men, but for the most part, I think in today's world, I think women are definitely getting noticed more. They're getting advancements in their career.
Yeah,
Um, and doing things that they need to do. And then there's certain ways to be that way too, right? To make sure that you're being recognized and respected in the
yeah.
field. But that can happen to men too, to be honest with you. So
I'm going to ask you one more question on that line before I want to talk to you about this surprise that you have. No, not surprise, but this very exciting unveiling that's coming up here in next month that I want to talk to you about. But is there a fatigue factor? Do do women go home, open the door, and you know the drill, right? Take the bra off, kick off their slippers, sit on the couch, and go, God damn it, I hate competing in the men's world. I just want to know what it's like to be equal. Is there a fatigue factor in having to get up and then being ready to fight every single day? Or am I overthinking that?
I mean, I don't know. I think I've been in places where I felt like that, but then again, I feel like where I'm now or in other places, I don't I don't feel that way, right? But um because I feel like there's a lot of really strong women that I currently am surrounded by that I absolutely love on my team. And I
Yeah,
think that helps, right? I think it just depends, but it very well can be. There are very toxic environments that people are in,
yeah,
unfortunately. But then that's kind of like your clue to maybe do something about it. So that you're not living in that all day because it's exhausting coming home and cooking dinner and doing all the things you have to do,
yeah.
on top of everything.
One more. I know I said I was going to move to the next thing, but I have one more.
Okay.
So let's talk about the cattiness. Um, because I've seen this as well, right? It's already hard to compete with the good old boys. It's already hard to compete with glass ceilings. It's already harder to compete to getting a ticket to the dance. So you get there, and other women aren't as happy always to see your success. They forget the price you paid. They forget the sacrifice. They forget, while raising your two kids by yourself and the hundreds of hours of seminars and trainings and books that you've had to read and sessions you had to attend and listen to tapes in your car. I'm not dating you necessarily, but listen to CDs in your car about the Zig Ziglars and the Tom Hopkins and the John Maxwells, um, and do all those things when no one was watching, right? But all they do see now is, oh look, Lila's got a seat at the table. Oh look, she's up front. Oh look, she's with the inner circle. Oh my goodness, she must be lucky, right? She's pretty. That's why she gets those breaks. She laughs at all those jokes. That's why she gets invited. Men like her because she's easy to get along with. Um, has that happened? Am I making this up?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's it does happen. And I'm very sensitive to that as well. Like I had a great example of this is there was a beautiful girl sitting in the waiting room one time with me, and I don't look at people because of uh, their beauty or what they've done. I look at people individually, and I started having this lovely conversation with her. And she was telling me how much she hated California, that she wanted to go back to Dallas, and because the men in Dallas were better, nicer to her. And so we just had this nice little chit chat conversation. And then I got called back before she got called back, And I got up and I started walking, and she looked up at me and she said, "Thank you." And I said, "Thank you?" And she said, "Yeah, thank you for talking to me because nobody ever talks to me." And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, that's because you're beautiful, and some women have a problem with that. I don't, you know. I tell people when I think they're beautiful, but it does. It happens sometimes, and it's very unfortunate because it's really unfortunate for the person who behaves that way because that behavior, unbeknownst to them, is often picked up by all the other people. They see it anyway. So it's better just not to engage in situations like that.
And none of this is stemming from your confidence level because you're gorgeous yourself and you don't feel threatened by her.
Not at all. I mean, I
Okay.
think
I'm just calling it out. That's all. I'm just
no, no. I mean,
stating the
that's
obvious.
I always tell, even if I see somebody that's absolutely beautiful, I'm like, You're stunning. You're beautiful." You know,
Okay.
what it doesn't harm me at all. I'd rather have somebody like that as a friend. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I'm lucky though. When you got this face, all my friends are prettier than me, right? Everyone I meet looks better than I do, so I don't have those challenges. All right, you've been working on something very special for a while, and you're about to share that with the world. Oops, looks like I'm losing connection again. Um, I'm I'm going to start over. You've been working on something for a while and put a lot of work into it, a lot of heart into it. And you are very passionate about this because you know it's going to help people and it's going to make a significant difference. Um, it's almost ready to be released. Can you share a little bit about what's coming? This is going to allow the people that are listening it to the show either live or at a future date a chance to position themselves to take advantage of some of what you have. Can you share a little bit about what's coming?
yeah, it's been a passion of mine for a really long time. It's a very true story. I had many executives that always work with me that would always tell me, you know, Lila, every time your bosses told me that they'd work with you, that I was going to see a relationship sell. Um, and they would say things like, but I'm blown away at the relationships that you have
Yeah.
and the people that jump up and give you a hug and say hello. And like that just doesn't happen. And honestly, for years, I blew that off because, like I said, I don't judge other people and think when I look at a beautiful girl, I'm like, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's technically sound.
Yeah.
Like I just think of all my colleagues as that way. I don't sit there and think, oh, they must not be as good as me. I never even my mind doesn't even go that way, right? So I'm just assuming that they're just saying that because when an executive comes to work with you, they have to say something's nice, and then they tell you
Sure.
something that you need to work on, right? And so I'm just thinking, I just for years and years, I blew it off. I just kept saying, that's just them saying something nice about me. I'm not any different than anybody else. I'm just like any other salesperson. And then it was finally two executives that really made me think about this a little bit more. They're like, you really need to think about what you do and teach other people what you do. So that
Okay.
birth basically these 5 steps. I kind of thought about it like, well, how do I approach sales?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I've got something coming up that we'll talk about, these, basically my step process that I go about when I try to sell something and how I process it. And hopefully it will inspire and help other people that are thinking about getting into this sales space.
So we don't want to give out the 5 step S process. And I say S because each of the steps start with the letter S. But I'm very intrigued. I'm very excited, looking forward to getting the book. I think this connection that you and I have gives me privy to a pre read before release. So I'm super excited about that.
But
So I will. We have a little bit more in common, right? Having been on the training path for most of our lives, and and even in sales capacities. Um, what were you willing to do when you didn't have it all together, what were some of the things that helped your belief levels, right? Because the level of commitment that we put into something, there's a direct correlation to the belief that we will get a result. So, case in point, if I didn't believe that I physically had the genetics to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger and I wanted to, then I wouldn't go to the gym and hit it as hard or as committed to it, because regardless of how much I worked out, I'm never going to look like that. For one, I'm not going to be 6'6", right? I can only be as tall as I can be. So, or if I wanted to slam dunk the ball like Kobe Bryant and I didn't believe I could do it, it didn't matter how many jumps I did in the ballpark. I'm not gonna get over the rim. I could back in the day, but there wasn't YouTube to prove that. Um, today I can't do it anymore. So, what were some of the things that you were willing to do? And then the greater question is, why were you willing to do it when I'm certain you have seen in your professional life hundreds, if not thousands, of people that you have shared some of your strategies with that didn't quite accomplish or achieve the same results you have? Um, how would you sum that up?
For me, when I felt like I wasn't up to snuff to something, no matter which company I went to, I always searched for somebody that was doing it better, or somebody that had already mastered where I wanted to be. And I sought them out and asked them, what did you do? How did you get there? Like, I remember one of my very first jobs, we had to role play, and everybody hates role plays, right? Because you see yourself on camera the first time and you're stuttering and you don't know everything and you're nervous because you're on camera. And so I remember we were given something that we had to sell that wasn't necessarily a pharmaceutical drug, but it was like a machine or whatever that we had to like also sell. And the guy that was one of our trainers was like one of the top guys in the entire company. So when we went in to role play, he was one of my trainers, and I told him, excuse me, that I wanted to knock this thing out of the park when I got out in the field. And I
Yeah,
said, and so we'd have to role play my part, and then we'd have to role play that. And I said, how did you do it? And I literally asked him questions, and I said, can I do it? And he goes, yeah. I said, can I role play it with you? And he goes, okay, do it again, do it again, do it again, right? And so we would sit there and we would role play over and over and over and over till I listened to what he had to say, because I wanted to use the words that he had to say, and then that built up my confidence as well, so that when I finally, got out there and got out in the field, it was actually pretty funny because I was selling these things like crazy. And the marketing
yeah,
department phone called me one day because, they were in Chicago, I was in California, and they're like, what are you doing out there? Like, you're one of the new hires that, like, all of a sudden you're just like slamming these things. What are you doing? And I said, hey, it was this guy named Tom, right? That was one of my trainers that I absolutely loved. And I'm like, I don't know. I just learned from the best, and I'm just
yeah.
doing what he did. So I just try. That's what I try to do, is I try to model. And then when I have team members, that are not doing as well, or I see that they have a lot of potential, I do the same thing with them. Let's work together. Let me see what you're doing. Let's strategize. Let's talk about the things that you've tried and what's worked, what hasn't worked, and maybe talk about some things that you could try that are different. Not me telling them what to do, because that never works,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
just kind of trying to inspire them to, like, maybe try something different, or pick out things about them, or that they may be doing that might be hindering their performance, and trying to help enhance it better.
Well, it sounds like you were willing to fail faster and more often than most people, so you can get it out of the way, right? Get all the suckiness out of the way. So
Mhm.
now on the flip side, you can get more yeses. And it also sounds like you were willing and eager to work through the awkwardness of new things so you could get more natural with it, um, more than most people are willing to do. it also probably stems from you having a belief that you had it in you to become natural at it and to see success. So that's awesome. Um, I hope you put all of that in your book, right? So when is the book coming out? Is the next question. When can we expect to see this? And so answer that first, and then I'm going to ask you a second question.
They're saying mid March, maybe late March. We don't have an exact
Okay.
date yet, but yeah.
Okay. So somewhere between now and Easter, we can expect to see the book. And do you have a snazzy title for it yet?
Yes.
Okay,
It's called.
that's fine. Oh, you want to share it? That's awesome. Let's
Well,
go.
let's not share it yet. So
Okay.
let's.
All right. And when we repost this video is streaming live on Twitter and on YouTube, obviously. But as you know, we would chop it up after post edits, and we will continue to play it in snippets on our channels. And I'm going to make sure that everybody in the audience and also the people that pay attention to us um, will be able to see your links so they can start following your mission and your campaigns as well, because I know how amazing that journey is going to be and how much you're going to get out of it. Um, Lila, we're super excited to have had this chance to speak with you. You've been extremely generous. Like I said when we started the show, I have personally benefited from your generosity, your kindness, your level of care. Um, you definitely back up your talk with your walk. I've seen it. Um, the people that we have met in common speak the world of you, and rightfully so. So I'm very grateful that you've invited us into your circle as well, because we don't take that lightly. I will say that one of the things that we're going to continue to do, so the Unfiltered show works very closely with the Stay Safe nonprofit organization. It's an organization that was created to help women be more aware of their surroundings and even being able to defend themselves. It's put on by a mother daughter that started the foundation several years back, and it's taken on a life of its own. And we want to start promoting that relationship and their awareness of what they're doing more and more and more. So we're going to be able to put more of that on our content as well. So do pay attention to that coming up, and help us spread the message about what Stay Safe is doing. It's phenomenal, right? You only need to have one incident in your life that can alter the course of the remainder of your life. So if staying safe can help prevent that, um, and I hope no one ever needs to use it, but I hope they always have it in their back pocket. But between now and the end of March, um, I want you to know that we are deeply grateful for what you've shared with us today. I have so much respect for sales excellence. I know the work that's put into becoming, making that your craft. Um, I can't wait to see more and more of what you unveil and what you allow us to see. I'm grateful that you've been so generous in helping us today and ongoing. And whatever projects that we could help promote that you're working on, we would be more than grateful to do that. Is there anything on a social level that you'd like for us to be able to help bring awareness to? Or is the focus right now just on finishing the book and getting it onto the shelves?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a big proponent, love for single moms everywhere in the world,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
It's I always said if I won the lottery, right, that I would want to be like create like an organization and have angels for women to support them, because it's a very frightening experience to be going through that alone. A lot of times, even if you have family, sometimes family
Yeah.
just doesn't understand. So anything that I can do for female empowerment and help them and safety, and I've been through a lot myself. So I think that's why I have so much passion to
Yeah.
help. I've always had the passion for the underdog, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
I,
absolutely.
Thank you for that. I've often said, and we're passionate about driving that cause as well. I've often said that if I had the ability to be smarter, stronger, better, um, more talented in life, um, I would come back as a mom. Just because that's what it takes, right? And then if I added superpowers to that, I'd come back as a single mom. So I have the world of respect and love and admiration for all of it, right? Not that you need any advice from me, but I will say this: children. Not that your kids are children anymore, but they often they they listen, they see with their ears and they hear with their eyes, right? So it's what you do and how you do it that what they learn from the most, more so than what you say.
Hmm.
So I'm certain that you have done them tremendously proud, um, and I can't wait to see what the next chapter brings. Leila Colgan, you've been very gracious, very kind, very generous. I hope we have you on the show again. I hope we do this again after the release of the book. So we're going to go ahead and quickly pen down some dates in April that we can do this so we can bring awareness to that as well. And thank you for being so gracious and generous with your knowledge, your expertise, your time, your talent, and certainly your treasure in helping bring this level of expertise to women everywhere. And for the guys who sneak in and read it, you're going to learn a lot too.
Well, thank you, and I've been very honored to be able to spend some time with you. I know you just a little bit personally, but what I know is an amazing person, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Lila. Have a wonderful day, and we will talk soon. Let's live an unfiltered life.
Thank you.